I need dragons for power!
The original created world was designed as a peaceful one, with no death, free access to the tree of life, animals did not eat each other, and we did not eat the animals, as we read in Genesis 1:29. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. Animal and human death was non-existent.
Bullshit, there wasn't any death. These things had to eat and ingest living cells in order to live, so unless they didn't eat, there was death.
Yet sin came into the world through Adam and Eve, along with the first animal death, to cover the effects of their sin. But something else happened. As the world and life began to decline from the curse of sin, even the animals became violent, to the point where God chose to destroy most of the animals as well in the worldwide flood. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. There was violence throughout the earth that was not part of the plan. The creation had become corrupted.
Which I have to ask the fucking question, if your God is all-seeing, all-knowing, and knows everything that ever will happen and ever has happened, then tell me, why didn't he do anything to stop it?
And violence was a major manifestation of that corruption. Now, because this corrupt world is all that we have ever known, it is understandable that we would interpret the world around us in terms of violence. And you'll notice that this is one of the hallmarks of evolutionary theory.
No, it's not.
Survival of the fittest.
No, it's survival of the most adaptable. Those that can adapt and change with their environment and pass on their genes to successive generations. Not survival of the animal that can kill the most, you lying cock shit. This is nothing more than a huge non sequitur, and I'm going to skip it.
When we look through the fossil record, we see enormous plant and animal life. Plants like the club moss, which today grow maybe 16 inches or 40 centimeters tall, getting up to 35 meters or 120 feet tall in the fossil record. Dragonflies, which today might get a wingspan of, maybe that size, we find in the fossil record with wingspans of over 3 feet or 1 meter. Now you can imagine the mess that critter would make on your windshield at 120 kilometers an hour. Even animals, like the camel, were found to be some 19 feet tall in the
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
fossil record. Sharks up to 100 feet or 30 meters long. We find the giant donkey in the fossil record as well,
Negative, meat sack.
with a Latin name that is just screaming for a joke, Asinus giganteus. But that's not all. We also see the lifespans of humans drop off significantly at the time of the flood.
Here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
Something radical happened at that time. The environment evidently became more hostile and less supportive of life. As a result, nutritional needs of the plants and animals became impoverished. The Lord even instructed Noah and his family at this point to begin adding meat to their diet, evidently in order to make up for the loss of nutrition in this new, more hostile world. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. And so we need to be careful in how we interpret the observed world around us. Death, sickness, disease, predation. None of this was part of the original plan, the original creation before the fall.
Are you mildly retarded?
So why then would various animals be created with such sharp teeth?
Ian, see this animal right here? This is Deinonychus. And like all raptors, it has the distinguishing characteristic of the sickle-shaped claw on the most medial toe. Tell me, why in the blueberry fuck would an original herbivore need to have this claw that's always held in the upright position as to not to get dull? And tell me, why would originally herbivorous animal need to have sharp serrated teeth? And tell me, why did it need to have curved claws on its hands? So why is it that both Deinonychus and, well, all other dromaeosaurs are so obviously built like predators? Is it because God foresaw the fall? Or is it because the fall never happened?
Carnivorous animals have sharp teeth. Well, just because they have sharp teeth and eat meat today does not necessarily imply that's what they were designed for. Fruit bats have equally sharp teeth, and our friendly carnivores that we're all so familiar with, dogs and cats, can be observed when they eat meat. You'll notice they do not use their long, sharp teeth to eat meat. They use their back molars.
Ian, if a 5-year-old can see the utter dishonesty and stupidity in this statement, then why the fuck should I take the time to explain it?
But there are other fascinating qualities that many animals have, like the chameleon. The chameleon, and many, many animals and fishes, can change colors, blend in with the background, and hide. Now, today we simply interpret this capability as the ability to hide from predators. But if there was no predator when the critter was first designed, why then the ability to change color? Now, with this octopus as an example, it can change both the color and texture of its skin remarkably fast. How on earth does it do this? Well, let's take a look at chameleons, which have a multi-layered skin, with the outer layer of skin being transparent. Now, below the transparent skin layer is a skin layer of cells called chromatophores, which contain yellow and red pigments. Below that layer is another layer of blue and white chromatophores. The third and deepest layer is made up of cells called melanophores, which contain a dark pigment. It's the same pigment that gives humans black skin. These cells then control how much light is absorbed or reflected. Now, all of these cells change size, retracting the pigmented cells either by muscle contraction or chemical control like hormones. By changing the size of the cells, the animal controls how much of each color shows up. And, like mixing paint, the animal can mix the colors to make pretty much any color, and also change how iridescent it is. Now, all of this smacks of incredible design.
Ian, this is nothing more than one big argument from ignorance. Just because you can't understand how it arose by natural means doesn't mean that doesn't automatically default that your magic genie in the sky said abracadabra and created everything.
So why then would the creator give these animals the ability to change colors? Well, why not? Because it's cool.
Now, Suzaku, what did we learn from all this? Nothing!
Like we communicate with facial expressions, these animals can communicate by altering their coloration. Oh yes, they could also use this ability to camouflage and hide from predators, but just because they use it for that purpose does not mean that was its original purpose. We are in a fallen world.
How do you know that? Can you tell me how you know that without using the Bible? Because I guarantee you fucking can't.
The incredible complexity of these color-changing abilities and control systems screams of an artistic creator. A University of Washington press release, along with a paper in Science magazine, details a fascinating discovery of a second layer of information in our DNA. The title of the press release helps the layperson understand both the discovery and its significance. Scientists discover double meaning in genetic code. Now remember, the genetic code is a language, a program essentially. It contains the instructions on how to build, operate, and maintain your body. Now, a very small part of the DNA gives specific step-by-step instructions on how to build the parts that make up your body, proteins. As is still being discovered by scientists working on the ENCODE project, which we've mentioned repeatedly here on Genesis Week, a huge portion of the DNA has the job of controlling the rest of the DNA and how it's used. These controlling genes have been the focus of the ENCODE project, and showing both how crucial and how extensive this huge portion of the DNA is. That huge portion, which was formerly called junk DNA. Now, when proteins are made, the DNA is read 3 bases at a time. These groups of 3 are called codons. What the researchers discovered was that the codon could act as one of the instructions on how to build a protein, but also simultaneously, the codon would also act as one step in an instruction on how to control genes. Let me make an analogy. We have a complex computer system which reads instructions provided to the computer. The computer follows the instructions to control machinery, which makes metal parts for a robot, gears for example. The instructions are written in the common programming language known as machine code. Now envision that the computer also uses those exact same instructions, and instead the computer is told to read the instructions as Fortran programming code. The computer is able to read instructions on how to build the robot, using the parts it is making, with the instructions for both the manufacturing and assembly of the parts embedded in the same words. The person who wrote out those instructions would be beyond a super genius.
I can understand using this analogy as a layman explanation, but when you try and compare it to fucking reproducing populations, that's when it falls apart, as computers can't reproduce, and thus aren't subjugated to the laws of population genetics, and can't, quote-unquote, evolve.
Now remember, evolution is not guided by intelligence.
Correct. It's guided by natural selection.
Non-intelligence does not give rise to intelligence, especially not astonishing intelligence, as is seen in the dual language system. Evolution is supposed to operate one small step at a time. In the case of genetics, changing perhaps one letter in the DNA. But as you can see, changing even one letter in the instructions would radically change not one, but 2 different readings of the words in 2 different languages.
Once again, Ian, just because you don't know how it could have happened doesn't mean it didn't happen. And again, this is nothing more than one big argument from ignorance.
Now envision our robot building computer system. And envision a scientist standing back, admiring all of this precision of machinery that took staggering intelligence to design. That scientist then says, wow, that's amazing that natural processes made all of this computer system from dirt.
You were just comprised to fail, aren't you?
Over many millions of years. The computer system even figured out how to write its own instructions and then figured out how to write and read 2 different languages using the same words. Isn't nature amazing?
Science only pertains to things happening in the natural world, and oh my god, I'm sounding like a broken record.
Well, besides being a thorough insult to the computer's creator, you already know what goes through your mind about that scientist. He is a fool for even contemplating such a suggestion.
For the last time, science can only pertain to things in the natural world, and oh my god, what have I been doing with my life?
Now, I don't like to use this Bible verse, to be honest, but you can quickly see why King David, who did not know about this dual language in our DNA, nor its complex reading systems, said, "The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God."
And there is no point. There's never any point.
There is absolutely no way such a dual language system and its complex systems that read and use the languages could have evolved.
Again with the argument from ignorance?
This dual language system not only demands a designer, but a designer of astonishing intelligence.
You were just comprised to fail, aren't you?
That creator was none other than Jesus Christ, who created a body to live in as a human being here on earth.
God. How long have I been doing this creationist response thing? A year and a half? I guess I'm just tired. I'm just tired of it. I don't even feel like dubbing over any clips. It's the same old shit. It's the same old shit, and I don't know. I guess I'm burned out because I just halfway through the video I stopped giving a shit. Next time, a review. Till then.
Oh dear. Sorry for the wait. I hope you guys are ready for a fucking party now. So in the immortal words of Bandy's Stuffing Anarchy, say it with me. Repent